Welcome to the Smithfield Planning Board meeting for August 15th, 2024. Before we begin, in terms of the emergency and evacuation notice, in case of emergency, there are two main exits out of the chambers. The first is to the left side of the stage, up the stairs, through the doorway, and down the stairway, out the back side of the town hall. The second is out the back of the chambers to the exit doorway, to the stairway out in front of the town hall. The men's facilities are through the back of the chambers, past the stairway, around the corner on the right. The ladies' facilities are through the back door of the chamber, straight up the stairs and on the left. Please do not use the elevator in times of emergency. Mr. Phillips, did you want to make an introduction?
Farrell, he's the assistant planner now, and then he left. If he survives until I retire, he'll be stepping in my shoes hopefully. So, he's helping me out with doing a lot of administrative stuff. Easing him in.
Thank you. First member of business is to review the minutes of the July 18th, 2024 meeting. Does anybody have any comments, discussion, or corrections? Agreed. Any other changes, corrections? Do we have a motion with those changes?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All not in favor? The ayes have it. Before we begin with old business, we're going to take Whipple Woods ID number 2203 master plan review request for an extension.
Good evening. How are you?
Good.
Richard Storney, representing Whipple Woods, requesting an extension for time to complete some more work on the project.
Okay, you give us a little background of the need for the extension.
The engineers had numerous health problems, from replaced knees to pretty debilitating injuries. So he's slowed us down, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Okay.
We're pretty close. I think we're actually hoping to present at the next available time to present. So we're
Didn't you mean the next meeting?
hopefully, yeah. I won't know until we talk to him.
First extension request is pretty much pro forma, by right. It's basically, the second request for extensions typically you have to have.
And this is the first. Okay. Any questions of the board members on the request?
Would it be appropriate to put it on the next board meeting?
I can't answer that until I talk to my engineer. I can't give you a direct answer until I speak to my engineer. I'd love to be on the meeting 3 months ago, but
Engineer, what do you need him for? You're not changing anything, are you?
we need him for a lot of things, right? DEM, we needed him to make some adjustments to the plan that we felt would improve the cost savings for the road. We need him to help vet some of the issues that were brought up by my attorney. So I can't answer that question because I'm not an engineer, but we're trying.
So once again, it's got nothing, you're not changing the plans, it's just, are you or not changing them? You don't know. I don't understand what the engineer can't,
I don't know your question. Could you, what's your question?
how long of an extension how long do you think, I mean, it sounds like you don't know how, is this guy? how long-
What's a traditional extension?
Yes. A year.
I'd like that, please.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion to extend. The extension,
Second? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All not in favor? Okay, the ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope to be here within 2 months. Thank you.
Uh, Going to old business, Klein's 29 East Prospect, ID 2402, continued from July 18th, 2024.
Good evening, members. This is a continuation of a minor subdivision plan that I submitted on behalf of Mr. Klein's. It's roughly 5+.
He's counsel, I believe.
No, actually, Mr. McCoy is counsel. I work with Mr. Klein's in-house.
Okay, we're gonna have Mr. McCoy.
He's going to speak to the easement issues itself as well. He's going to testify to that
Okay,
and answer any questions relative to the board.
why don't we begin with, state your name, please?
Pasquale Scaviti,
Okay,
PAS, PAS, Pasquale, PAS, QUALE, last name SCA, V like Victor, IPPI.
before we begin, we swear the witness, please.
Yes, I do.
And we're gonna have Mr. Kleins testify as well. Can you state your name as well?
Kevin Kleins, Clynes.
And if we can swear Mr. Kleins in.
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So this is a continuation of an application that was submitted for a minor subdivision plan on a 5+ acre parcel to be converted to 2 buildable residential lots and an acre plus deeded to the town as open space. And virtually all the abutters have agreed to it. There is one objector. And as it relates to the easement and ingress and egress and traffic flow. And I'll have Attorney McCoy speak to any impact that may have and what the absolute intentions are in that regard.
When we were here last, there was a discussion perhaps of a recommendation that the parties speak again to see if they could come to some end in terms of the easement issue. I assume that has gone not to your satisfaction.
We've tried on more than one occasion to no avail.
We got notification today from their lawyers that they're trying to fight it.
You received notice today from the church's lawyers or the town's lawyers?
They got forwarded from Mike Phillips.
Okay, the copy, and that was.
From the churches.
Oh, went to the board. It's just what I just read on the email.
Would you like us to hear from Mr. McCoy?
Yes, Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman,
Hello.
members of the board. John McCoy. I'm an attorney in Providence, Rhode Island. Mr. Kleins has referred to me to take a look at the memorandum of agreement, which I did. And also to kind of get a flavor of things, I spent this afternoon reviewing the video from your July meeting, so I could get a sense of that. And also I looked at the minutes from the June meeting. I looked at the memorandum of agreement itself, as you know, and as was discussed last month. It's from 1915. It's a memorandum of agreement between two parties who abutted each other at the time, the Williamson family and a John Hartley. Those two parties really agreed to a mutual right-of-way to allow both of them, and as was testified to and read at the last meeting, with or without horses, carts, carriages, wagons, or so forth, to get to the main road, which is defined as Farnham Pike, which goes beyond Prospect Street, as you know. So I think two important things, and these were touched on last time. One is the original easement was 25 feet. I looked at the Canavan survey. I know it says original width 20 feet. I asked Mr. Kleins about why that was. I don't know why it was, but the original easement was 25 feet. So I think was acknowledged. The other thing I think is important, based on the discussion I saw from last month, was there originally were two families who had the use of this right of way. So I know you're talking about two houses now versus one, but there originally were two families, and this goes down to their successor in science, who had the use of this right of way going back to 1915. So I think that's important to keep in mind, that this originally was two users that had this right. That's what the original agreement said. Certainly has been on record since 1915, but glad to answer any other questions, but that's the way I read it when I went through it.
Sure. Go ahead, Charlie.
I have no information. When you say two families, I didn't see, is it two different families? Does it say
It is.
two
it
families can
is.
go there, but it's still one residential? What does it say?
It says each is granted to the other. Hartley grants to Williamson, and then Williamson grants to Hartley. So they're each given respective rights to each other to pass, repass over what's further described as close as possible to the old wagon road. So they're each giving each other the right to go along this road, which is the way it's described, more or less ran along the boundary of their two properties at the time. So with the two original parties, each giving each other, the other family, the right to pass and repass over this road.
Correct, but it's still only one residential. It's, you're talking the two different people live on each end going
On
across
each
one
side.
side. You're not talking two people going one way. Because
No,
what you
it's-
want to do now is want two people going one way. I'm
Yes,
talking
but
one going this way and one going that way. That's not really the same.
they each had the right to go the same direction, to use this path to get to Farnham Pike. Both of them did. One had it and the other
Well,
one
one
had it.
comes in, one comes out, yes.
Or both could go the same way to get to Farnham Pike. That's what it gave them the right, both of them to the other, because the path went back
I
and
don't-
forth across their property.
I don't see, I read it myself and something, I don't see it that way. What is legal counsel? Did you,
I read it, there was, one family had the right to pass over the others to get to their property for cattle, and the other things that they plan to do, It had nothing, there was no statement about a main road. It was simply.
yeah,
pass
I-
it.
I agree.
I don't interpret it that because each side could then go on the other front, I don't interpret it. Usually we have an easement, we have one owner, given a portion of land, but it's going to go over. That's how I interpret it. One party needs to get over the land to get their cattle up the hill, or back down the hill. I interpret it as that's what it's for, one lot at the time. I stand by my decision,
Okay.
my opinion that it's an expansion of what was allowed, which is one party to get up to that lot. That's what it's for.
As a board members, I think we should agree with our representation versus yours. That's all.
All I can say is what I read, each granted to the other. This was, and there was a title as a memorandum of agreement. Each was Hartley granted to Williamson and Williamson grants to Hartley. That's what it says.
This is the concern that I have. I don't have a problem with the project at all.
Mhm.
I have a concern that there's a dispute between the applicant and the churches over whether or not the applicant is entitled to use that easement given the issues that are raised. We have legal interpretation for the applicant. We've had legal interpretation for counsel. We've received a letter from counsel for the churches. What are we to do as a board, given that dispute?
You know, all I can tell you is that the original agreement was for two families to use this same cart path. That was my purpose in coming here, to give you an explanation of where I read that.
And I appreciate your interpretation, but what there appears to be is disputes between the applicant and the party whose property whose the easement goes through. Aren't we buying, or isn't there going to be potential litigation between the parties until this?
You can never prevent another party from filing a complaint.
Well,
Whether it's successful or not, that's obviously a different situation.
And until that's resolved, is it not perhaps better to not have the board grant this approval? Not that we disagree in any way with it, but until that's ultimately, and there's ways of that being resolved.
In the meantime, of course, Mr. Kleins is prejudiced by the fact that he cannot go forward for a project. that has been
I
approved.
understand, but
And we only have an applicant's attorney who sent a letter that I saw today with just some general assertions, but doesn't really get into more detail.
but the board's legal counsel, its
I understand what Mr.
interpretation
Priscilla is saying.
has grave concerns about it. And that we as a board,
I understand. I understand. I understand.
But when the easement was granted, is from one party to come down and through, but it allows the other party to come up into the other part too. So it is by all accounts, both parties are benefiting from it. If one has to go up the hill, one is allowed to come up the hill. If one wants to come down the hill, one is allowed to come down the hill. So in the paperwork that was sent today by their attorney, it says for an expansion of the easement. We're not looking for an expansion of the easement. We want to use the same easement to come up and down, which was granted in since 1915.
that's right. I mean, let's assume for argument's sake, the board approved your plans. You begin construction. As soon as you do that, you get hit with a lawsuit. Stalls the project. You're in litigation, you've incurred costs, et cetera. Perhaps it's an easier way of dealing with that first by way of declaratory judgment, if the parties can't agree. There's other ways of doing it. Us as a board approving your application when there's this dispute puts us in a very difficult position. And that's our concern, and my concern, not necessarily is your project. It looks like a good project. I have no issue with the project itself, but for this side issue. Any other comments of board members?
Mr. Chair, I think I would write the last time, the same agreement has provisions to discuss or resolve that.
It did. That's what we thought might happen before today's meeting.
Mr. Chairman.
Well, for an arbitration, or it didn't say arbitration, but essentially that's what it was talking about.
It's supposed to be where the both of us are supposed to find our own thing
And with a neutral.
and a neutral party. So in other words, just get a neutral party.
It's like, you're not incorrect there.
Yep.
As long as you both agree.
I'd be fine for that. That's part of what the easement is grandfathered in. If there's a dispute, we're supposed to go find a neutral party.
And my point is, if you can get that resolved
Yep.
before asking us to rule on your application.
I can't drag them to go try and figure out how to
Well,
do the thing when.
There's ways of getting that done. You've got counsel, and counsel can advise you one way or another, just like counsel will advise anyone that opposes it.
Okay.
But that's that.
I understand.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Michael?
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question
Of course you can.
is it currently a vacant lot right now that you want to subdivide? So there's nothing
Yes.
current vacant lot, yes.
Yes.
So there's nothing prohibiting this gentleman from building a house on that now and resolving the potential legal issue in the future, and then subdividing it provided that.
I haven't heard anything that would offend a single
Right.
dwelling.
So he can go ahead and build a structure now, a home, and sell it, and then possibly.
I haven't seen anything. I don't know what any, abutting owner would say to that or object, but I haven't seen anything.
I would like to do that.
Okay, go ahead.
There's also a question about the water pressure there. Did we ever solve that?
The sewer,
The water?
there's been no question brought up. There's well water that's there.
I thought the fire department wasn't.
No, the fire department's already been here at the other planning meetings. There's a distance from the bottom of East Prospect. They've been on the planning stuff. He came to the meetings with Mike Phillips. The distance from the fire hydrant is within the front doors of each unit that's
Yeah,
there.
it wasn't the distance, sir. It was it was the pressure
They,
and the grade. It was the grade.
that's all been fixed on the drawing. And then when it came up, they measured the distance from the fire department. And they only asked, the only thing that they had asked at the planning meeting was the cul-de-sac be enlarged from 40 feet to 45 feet to correct the latter one.
I haven't seen anything. They've seen that.
It's already on the drawings that came right after the last meeting, for the Thursday meeting. Right after that, we went to Canavan and enlarged the cul-de-sac to 45 feet, and it's already been presented over 2.5
There was
months ago.
testimony on that the last hearing.
I understand.
The applicant indicated that he would like to do one lot. Does he need to file a new application? What's the process?
Well, you could pull a building permit tomorrow, get one lot. You could be able to sell it, and it's where you subdivide the lot, that's what you chose to do. You can get underway and build a house. The anticipation of the subdividing.
Now, is what happened to Mr. Ringland over there? Is that downsizing? Does he have to re-advertisement for that? Like we're making him do it. I mean, that's a different plan. Does it have to go through advertisement to the people that's on?
Well, he's gonna, whatever, no, with one lot, I don't think you're gonna have to advertise.
You don't have.
It's not sub,
That lot is currently zoned for one single family house.
So it doesn't, it could be downstairs scale.
Yeah, there was a house in before the first house.
Just want to be sure it's there.
is this still open for public hearing as well? Because I know the churches are present.
I just say, I think I saw that you had closed the public hearing.
What's that?
I saw that when I was watching this afternoon, you had closed the public hearing last month.
Well, yes.
Okay,
Take testimony.
we're taking testimony today, from witness. Okay. We have a second? Okay, all in favor? Aye. All not in favor? The ayes have it. What we're going to do is, we're going to give the churches an opportunity to speak and anyone else, and then we'll get back, okay? So now, 6:23, and public hearing is now open. Anyone who would like to speak, please come forward.
Hi, Raymond Church.
I think Mr. Church, he stated his name. Could you state your name as well?
Lisa Church, 16 East Prospect
And
Street.
we're gonna have you both sworn in, okay?
I do.
Mr. Church?
Yeah, I think at this time, we're going to defer to council that we have engaged with.
Okay, and you heard the board's comments?
Mhm.
And you understand from the board's perspective? Okay.
Yes.
Anything else you'd like to add?
No, we very much appreciate that, and we look forward to discussion between the attorneys. No conversation has taken place since the last meeting. So.
None at all?
None at all. We weren't approached, not a single word. So our attorney did just send in the letter, I think on the Monday holiday, and we look forward to discussion between the attorneys.
just so I'm clear, Attorney Hogan sent a letter that the board is in possession of. When was she involved? Just recently?
Yeah, yes, we had, we inquired, but by the time we found someone that came recommended that was able to help us, it was very, we tried after the last meeting and we're just able to attain that. So yes, she was just recently retained.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Continue it? We'll ask them what their preference is. Anyone else like to be heard on the Klein's matter? No one responding. The public hearing is now closed at 6:25 PM. Back to the applicant.
Yes, sir.
So what's the preference in terms of the application? Would you like to continue it, pass it, or have us vote on it as it exists?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Klein.
take 10 minutes?
Sure.
Very good.
Should we?
I'll make a motion to hold the matter to be.
The ayes have it. Should we begin with the next matter? Next matter is Maury Hill Commons ID 18-007 public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, Mike Phillips, Town Planner. We have a notice issue with this application. The notice was put in the newspaper, but we neglected to send out mail notice to abutters. I know the applicant is here. They were going to attempt to get all the abutters present so that they could perfect notice. I don't know if they've been successful, but I'll let them address that.
Why don't we do we have a list and why don't we run through the list to see who's here and who's not here? It was an idea of one of our board members. I can't take credit for that. Okay. Do we have Josephine Eman or Emin here today? Given that we do not have one member here or a person that needs notice, I assume it's the position that the notice is faulty.
Yeah, I know Scott Ringland is here if he wanted to address the board, but it's my feeling if there's not anyone here, any one person on the list.
If we don't have
disqualify.
everyone here.
Yeah.
For clarification, is the notice only perfected if they show up, or is it perfected if they were notified? Like,
If-
you know what I mean? Like if whoever the applicant were to testify that these people were notified, is that enough, or they would have to show up and say they were notified? I see.
It wasn't a name,
Mm-hmm.
so the applicant is attempting to door to door. Say, I think it's. In, so they had one person, almost like person.
Okay.
Just to say they were told without proof of name.
Is an issue. Okay.
So with the issue being that we are not confident notice was given, will this be passed or continued?
Well, it can't be continued, it has to be renoticed.
Will be renoticed. Okay. Okay, Charlie, go ahead.
Consider Mr. Ringland's being put through this because it's our fault. Consider Mr. Ringland's being put through this because of, we had a problem and I can see this is gonna cost him money again. Is it, from my understanding, we can take a vote, but it has to be to say if we want it done or not. It has to be somebody that says that they voted. against Mr. Phillips' agreement. If we vote against, we can just let it go. In other words, to keep pushing this another month ahead, another month, just to take another vote to say that we agree with Mr. Phillips' assessment that it doesn't have to be done again.
So you're asking for a motion to reconsider your original decision?
Correct.
Regarding whether it's a major or minor, is that what you're saying?
Right, so we just made a minor, so we don't have to put them through this again. This is crazy. Because the end result is gonna be the same thing anyway.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Joe.
I have a question for legal counsel.
David,
David? The notice requirement, is that required of the applicant to make sure the notice is sent out according to the names of the of the parties within the area? Is it the applicant's responsibility or the town's responsibility? Okay, and in this situation, the town failed to mail out notices. Okay, were they, none of them were mailed out, or were they mailed out late?
No.
Mr. Chairman, under that circumstance, I understand what Charlie is saying, but we're not anywhere near able to address this issue because the notice was faulty and it has to be re-noticed, unfortunately. That's my opinion.
which I understand. Charlie has a motion. Does anybody second Charlie's motion?
It's improper because there's the previous agenda item isn't even on this agenda. I don't think we could reconsider it even if we wanted to. I think that there's a notice issue with the agenda being put out, like it's not on the agenda to reconsider that issue. So nobody was noticed for that issue at all. So I think that's, we can't even vote on it, to be honest.
With it, will you
Yep.
pass it, will you pass your reconsideration?
Creative solution, I like it.
We're trying to figure out.
Yeah.
how to solve this problem.
Okay.
Like it's-
And I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing and renotice. And I think unfortunately, the town dropped the ball. And I think, there should be some recourse for that because these projects are lengthy and expensive. But our hands are tied. I think we can't break the law to push a project through. So I
Yes.
think at this point, we have to continue the public hearing, even though none of us really probably want to.
We as the board can't speak to the recourse, but we can certainly address the motion to continue,
Second.
extend, I'm sorry. Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All not in favor? Nay, the nay, aye. So you're not in favor, right? Okay, so
In favor.
Yes.
the ayes have it. Okay, going back to Klein's 29 East Prospect ID 2402. You had an opportunity to speak?
I did with Attorney McCoy and Mr. Kleins, and we're going to withdraw our current application without prejudice, and we'll start construction on the first property and then jump off the bridge when we get there.
Thank you.
Okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Going to new business, Amelia's Way, 260 Old County Road, ID 2405, public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. Just for the record, my name's Joe Casali. I'm a registered professional engineer with offices at 300 Post Road in Warwick.
Can I stop you for a
Yes, of
second?
course.
Are we swearing Mr. Casali in as an expert?
I think, Chair, because I believe you have both zoning very before you and planning to keep things.
We keep the public hearing open,
Yeah.
the whole,
That last time it was choppy.
Yeah.
Yeah, part of it with the public people, to speak about, let's have them present their project, have the public be heard, and then from your perspective, you'll take motions first regarding the zoning.
And you'll remind me if I forget. Do you have any issue with that proposal?
I do not, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, let's have you sworn in.
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. So again, Mr. Chairman, if I may, just quickly to the PowerPoint presentation. So this project is Amelia's Way. It's a 3-lot residential subdivision, 260 Old County Road, specifically Assessors Plat 43, Lot 75. In terms of where we are in the community, Route 295, 104 Old County, and that's the subject parcel, again, Assessors Plat 43, Lot 75. Sizable piece, about 6.5 acres, entirely in the R medium zone. Just has severe wetland encumbrances. We'll show you in a second. We have a tributary to the Georgiaville Pond, an area subject to storm flowage, a perennial stream, freshwater wetlands that encompass that. And when you look at the DEM buffer zone, you can see more than half the property is within freshwater wetlands. That's the new 200-foot DEM jurisdictional area. So based on this property and where we are in the state, DEM now requires us to apply anytime that we're within or north of that 200-foot jurisdictional area. So the applicant simply wants to propose, it's a private way. It's about 433 feet long. It's when I say private, it will be maintained by the homeowners association. We don't expect it to be plowed by the town. You know, with respect to services, nothing more than the school bus and the school children. So when we look at that, that will allow us to frame 3 lots around there. In terms of wetlands, the 20-foot primary setback will not be affected. You got pretty large building envelopes. But in terms of waivers and variances, there are a few waiver requests because we're in an R medium zone, even though the baseline size of the lot is the R40, 40,000 square feet. When you don't have sewer and water, and in this case, we have septics and wells, that bumps up to 65,000 square feet. So we're requesting a waiver on the lot area of lot 1. Being a private road, we're requesting that the right-of-way not be so wide as 50 feet. 30 feet is more than acceptable to service these 3 homes. And building on that, the pavement right-of-way not to have 30 feet of pavement for 3 homes, respectfully requesting a reduction to 20 feet with 10 feet of relief requested. There's also a waiver for the cul-de-sac to have the alternate design. This was the old cul-de-sac standard that you probably all are familiar with, that you don't have that island in the middle, which sometimes can be problematic. In terms of the cul-de-sac, the
5,000 square foot, that's not a waiver, that's a zoning variance.
excuse me, that is a zoning variance. It is listed in your table of lot sizes in the planning, but that is a variance from lot size from zoning.
Waivers for planning side.
That's correct. The waivers for planning, so variances through zoning, waivers through planning, so the street and the cul-de-sac will all be waivers. So in terms of the cul-de-sac, you can see the right-of-way radius, the pavement. That's Smithfield's largest truck, about 42 feet, 7 inches. And you can see how it can make its way around within a 3-point turn. Also, lastly, waivers because of the new regulations, Mr. Chairman, we are now here for minor subdivisions, a preliminary. We never saw you at master because that no longer exists. So we're respectfully requesting a waiver, that the state permits be deferred to final. If you so choose to approve the layout, the waivers, and the one variance, we'll do all the engineering and make all the filings. But as proposed, 3-bedroom, single-family homes, in terms of drainage, everything moves, easterly on the property. We'll be intercepting all of that water and, taking it around, into Old County Road, which, we're working now with DOT. There's some infrastructure out there that's right now, deemed to be not only collapsed, but truck full of sand. So part of our application, part of what we're charged with through the PAP process is to upgrade and remedy some of these maintenance issues. Again, septic systems in the front, wells servicing the houses. Geometrically, it fits well. There is a water main outside of Old County Road. We will be potentially bringing a hydrant across the street, but not domestic water all the way up the roadway. In terms of permitting, again, tonight is preliminary with waivers and a variance. We also would need to seek a freshwater wetlands permit, subdivision suitability from DEM, a DOT physical alteration permit, Providence Water for the hydrant, Smithfield Fire ultimately for the site layout, and town soil erosion, and then delegation of final to Mr. Phillips, the administrative officer.
Any questions of the board members? Charlie?
For you, I got a couple questions for you, Joe. The maintenance thing, I'm looking at the water drainage, the maintenance schedule and the agreement.
I'm sorry.
The stormwater maintenance on it, questions are, there's one about the sand.
I'm sorry, Charlie, what is that you're looking at?
This is the Old County one, right? Yeah, right. It's the storm runoff water. The agreement that is going to be done with from DEM
Oh, in our application?
in your application. Yeah, who's going to be required to take care of it and where it's going to be and how it's going to. Yeah. The question has to. The question has to do with the maintenance of what DEM wants them to be done on this property. I have questions about it.
Yeah, right. So I understand, Charlie. Thank you. So now, unlike it was in the past, whenever you're putting in drainage appurtenances in the ground, DEM no longer just permits them. You have to record in the land evidence record so that it's enforceable who's going to operate and who's going to maintain all of the drainage. In this case, because it's a private roadway, it will be done with the homeowners association. So this subdivision will create a private homeowners association for anything such as who's going to plow the road, who's going to maintain the road, who's going to maintain the drainage and all of the common areas. And that will be not any longer, the town's burden. So you'll see more and more of these private roads because, the town they're not gonna continue to accept these big detention ponds, Charlie, within the subdivision. They just don't have the personnel, as you know, to maintain them. So when you have a private road and a homeowners association, it puts that burden on the homeowners association. But DEM wants that recorded in the land evidence records so that it's enforceable. This is just a sample that's given to us in the regs. When we make filing to DEM, this will be all filled out and part of the approval will be.
That's fine, yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine. But my question, Joe, was, it has to be, it says about the sand and salt, it says to be covered. what kind of cover are you talking about? Like a shed or just a top over it? What's the law on that?
Right, so because of this being a 3-lot subdivision, they're not gonna have salt on site like Public Works would. You're just gonna have a third party, somebody that's gonna plow the road and they're gonna come in with a sander or a salter on
So
the back
salt
of the
won't be
truck.
stored on the property then?
No, no, I don't anticipate for a 3-lot subdivision. If we get into, let's say it's Bryant University, let's say it's the town of Smithfield, you have sand and salt sheds and reserves, but something this size, it's just too small.
Okay, because I know they're having problems with people just storing it in sheds and stuff. They don't allow them doing that anymore either. So that's a technical, DEM gets really,
It's all, the town has a permit, yeah, for their sand and salt and to store it.
how do you enforce this? In other words, somebody's like, it says you have to sweep your driveway and do your drain.
Right, so.
DEM gonna check on them or is the town check on them?
Well, they both are gonna, once it's recorded in the land evidence record and it's subject to, it can be either that has enforcement over that. If the town wants to enforce, if there's an inordinate amount of sand coming off, let's say Amelia's Way, and it's clogging up a town drain or a state highway drain, I can see any one of those parties wanting to enforce that, but now they have the teeth to do it with its recordation in the land evidence records.
All right, that's just right. Thank you, Joe.
Sure.
Yes, I must need Mike Phillips on this. I see a comment about on the recommendation that the applicant explore repositioning the houses and regrading the lots, to provide more usable yard space around those houses.
Yeah, a couple of the houses have, rather steep slopes coming up to the rear yard. And I know we looked at other subdivisions, shifting some of the houses so that the rear yard space. Just something to consider. So.
What's your take on that, Jim?
Fair comment. It'll probably be dealt with at the individual soil erosion permits. Lot 1 is probably the most severe. We position that so it's a walkout, it's a drive under garage. Lot 3 is the same. It's perpendicular to the contours. Yeah, that's it's a fair comment. And we do have room in the building envelopes to move those around.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Please.
I know you touched on the drainage issue. I lived on that road for quite a while. The water comes off that property and doesn't even, it's got a huge trench now on the side of the road.
Yeah.
But it overfills that and it flows onto the road and it creates all kinds of ice from that land all the way down to the post office. It's treacherous sometimes during the winter. The water actually comes down by the post office and pools going out into Farnham Pike.
I've like you noticed it, and witnessed it. We think, when we were out there, Catherine, that if you look at that culvert, it's supposed to take the water across Old County Road. All of this watershed now is coming and it's supposed to take it across Old County Road. It's filled 3/4 with sand. It's crushed to probably 80% of the capacity, which makes sense as to why it's doing nothing. And then everything is just heading down.
Where the wetlands are there, the tributaries coming off.
And that too is supposed to.
In one mass over the whole area. It's not like a little brook here and a little brook there. It just completely flows
Yeah.
over.
So, if this is implemented, we expect, this neighbor now that we would, bifurcate that sheet flow with this basin and route things around. We would take anything from lot 1, take it around, and then this area of roadway, that we can't, tie into, we had hoped to infiltrate. And so we'll have standard reductions, with all this drainage. But the key to it is the culvert and getting that operational across Old
It's a
County Road.
huge problem there. And I know you have another project also
We
tonight.
do, which is one up, yes.
When all those trees come down, I can't imagine what's going to happen with that water.
Yes.
That's a big concern I have. Usually I'm loud enough that's a big concern I have as well with the drainage in that area specifically. I have a few questions regarding that culvert that you say is crushed and full of sand. Is that something that you're planning on rehabilitating yourself?
Yeah, I mean, we need a physical alteration permit from DOT. If our drainage is necessary to go through that. I can't see a funding mechanism from DOT where they're gonna fix it. It's gonna fall upon the applicant.
Yeah, I mean, even if your drainage doesn't go through that, I think just the sheer fact that this area is being built upon and the drainage will be affected, I think that should be fixed as a part of the application, regardless by the applicant. So that's something that I would ask the board to consider. Based on your description of that culvert, I haven't seen it personally, but your description seems like it's in pretty rough shape.
Yeah, you can see it right there. There's a good shot of it.
Well,
It's
that's the
just-
same one that you were referring
Yeah,
to. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so I would ask that the applicant bear that if the project does.
Do we know who owns that land? Is that?
It's within the middle of the state highway, so it's DOT. Any improvements will require a PAP from them.
So the drainage is a massive issue in town in general, this area specifically. So that's one reason why I'm not super gung ho about this project. Another issue that I have is with lot 1 specifically, the lot area variance that you're asking for is very large in that it's a half an acre, more than half an acre, like 0.6, right? I'm at 24,000 square feet, a little more than 24,000 square feet, over half.
That's correct. Yes, that's
So
correct.
it's a pretty large lot area variance, like it seems like it's being forced in there, It doesn't really go with the zoning code. That's a very large variance in my opinion. So
Well, if you,
again, my position on this project, if the board were to approve it at all, I wouldn't approve lot 1.
if you brought domestic water up, you would not need a variance. Lot sizes would be 40,000 square feet because that's the underlying zone in our medium. And if you look at all the surrounding area, when you look at lot sizes, I would argue that this lot does fit into the natural character. You look at the density there, from this lot, most of those lots are not even close to being 40,000 square feet. So we can either extend the water line up and not need that variance if you're uncomfortable with it, but we're asking for it with respect to the wells. There's no need for infrastructure when it's not warranted just to play semantics with lot areas.
Well, I'm not playing semantics. You're asking for
No,
over half an acre variance.
Right,
in
if
a-
we
in a
were to
zoned
extend the
area that
water,
doesn't
we
require
wouldn't
that.
need the variance is what I'm saying.
So if you don't need the variance, then why are you asking for it?
Because we're asking for it because we don't want to bring up infrastructure for a water line that would then have to be perpetually maintained when we could put wells. But there is a water line right outside on Old County Road.
So if it's a cost issue to bring the water up, that's an inappropriate reason to ask for a variance.
Well,
right?
it's a cost issue on both sides. It's perpetual maintenance for you as a town. Do you want a water main there that you need to maintain in perpetuity when we can do wells? So the cost initially, yes, it's on the developer, but it's also a public-private partnership that the cost of maintenance is on you in perpetuity. That's something you need to think about as a planning board.
So that's my issue with that is I mean, we can argue back and forth about it. I have an issue with the large variance request. Additionally, I think some of this parcel, again, if this program is approved, and I say this to everybody, I'm not singling this project out, some of it should be donated to open space. That's a deal breaker for me in a lot of projects, especially with the overdevelopment happening in town. I mean, this is a wooded area overall. There's animals that live there. There's things that live there. Smithfield is not meant for private roads and cul-de-sacs. That's not what we do here. So if that's the case, I think there should be a piece of it saved for open space to allow for that type of buffer, in the future. So those are my 3 issues with this project.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, where's the requirement for open space?
No requirement. That's a requirement that I'm
Okay,
asking.
so it's just a
Okay.
suggestion. I just want to understand if we need to be,
You can
we're
ask me- you
making,
can ask me.
well, I'm
That's-
going to talk to the chief. We're making new policy.
There's no new policy. It's
That's a suggestion
it's
of
a
myself.
suggestion
Thank you.
of one of the board members.
65,000 versus 40 based on public water and public sewer. I don't think it's one or the other. So lot 1 you probably have to have the sewer and public water.
Okay, so to clarify what you're saying, the variance would be needed regardless,
No.
or it would be not needed?
No, it re-
Public water and public sewer, a lot more.
I see,
What
I see.
it had one.
Okay,
Right.
my position's the same regardless.
I gotta look at that footnote, Dave. It can be. I know that we have sewer at De Niro Drive. I know we've done a low pressure force main there. So, if that's the case, sewer and water or reconfigure, well, let's see where it goes.
Have you heard from this neighbor specifically? Where the road crosses through?
My office has not, no.
Okay, has the applicant, to your knowledge, communicated with that neighbor?
My understanding, no.
Okay, what about the neighbor across the street?
I don't think there's been any public outreach. This is the first time this is before the town.
Two guys? It looks like someone's raising their hand. Maybe that is the neighbor. Okay,
There's people here that.
okay,
have
okay, so not yet.
Charlie?
No outreach yet is what you're saying.
That's correct.
Early stages, yeah.
No, this is actually preliminary because of the new regulations, which is awkward because you haven't seen us. And yet this is the whole shooting match tonight.
Charlie, you had another question?
Yeah, I got two questions, actually. If that is the rule, are you willing to put the sewer in too?
You're gonna have to do a cost benefit analysis and see,
Or I just put the well in yourself, yes.
right, or, can you repurpose this lot for other development? If it's not for single family homes, are there other options? I don't think it's just either or. I don't think it's option A, sewer, water, 3 lots, option B, 2 lots. I think there's options C, D, and E, which, we got to go back to the laboratory on that.
Also, I was looking at the grade, but I'm not that good at, numbers because it's small, my glasses, something like that. It looks to me though, most of that water that's running into that road it's not really affect that piece of property yours. It's that one, it doesn't seem like it's gonna affect it. It looks like the water is running above your property, actually.
It does. It runs into the wetlands to the north, but once it breaks out in Old County Road, because it doesn't get under that culvert and across, it ends up down near that really big intersection where the post office is.
So the problem is actually above where you are is where the problem is, not below you.
The culvert's right in there. It's actually but yes, the flooding is south of this. Where the post office is,
Yeah.
that real awkward wide intersection.
I'd have to, I don't, if you get a site walk out there, see how, but to me, it looks like it goes this way. It's like, it doesn't look like it goes that way, but without being.
Gotta bring your boots. Yeah, bring your boots.
I also-
Look at it,
Mr. Chair, I have one more question. I noticed that there was a memo from the fire department about the grade. Is that something that was addressed with them already, or is that something that you're still working on doing?
So the maximum grade is at 10%. I think we're just shy of that. They made comment that it is steep, even though it's below the maximum. We'll try to reduce it, but it could be an impracticality with the amount of right of way we have to get up there. So we're gonna always try to make it as flat as possible, but we're gonna be upwards of 9%, 9.5%.
It looks like it's 9.9 actually.
Yeah, it's 9.8, 9.6 right now. We don't have the final topography, but I can tell you it's probably still gonna be well over 9, even when we fool with it.
The finished grade with the asphalt, I mean, will be over 10 now.
No, that's, we'll cut it down so that the finished grade mimics it. Yeah.
Any other
Yeah.
questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's more of a, just kind of give an opinion that the 40,000 is 65,000. In my opinion, that's that obscure number of adding 25,000 square feet to a lot that's acceptable from soil erosion, from building and everything else. Seems like just it's just like this blown up number. I don't know if it's because it's making sure you have room for a septic system. That's the point behind it. In my opinion, if you have room for septic and your well and everything else on that 40,000 square feet, I just don't see why you force someone for 25,000 more square feet. So that's just my opinion on it.
And the difference on a 20,000 square lot and 40,000 is different than a 40 and a 60, where
Yeah.
40 is already an acre.
Right.
But
That's right. And I agree, there's no science behind it. There's no metrics. Lot size is normally relegated to availability of sewer and water.
Plus Mike has, I don't know if he has anything.
Yeah, I was just gonna comment too, just looking at lot one, if you look at the grading plan, lot one actually has more flat area and usable space than the other two lots, which are larger. So it really comes down to, you know, what's your usable building envelope. So I think that's more important than looking at lot one. Is that you go to the grading plan, it does have more flat area.
any other questions of the board members of Mr. Casali? Michael?
So could you please bring up the grading plan? The excellent one you have in the plans.
I don't know that I have it on the,
Oh, okay.
I have it in front of me, Mike.
I wasn't sure, Joe. Yeah, so basically within that grading plan is the clearing, that's
Yeah.
proposed. That's okay.
Limited disturbance, clearing, absolutely.
Okay. All right, so yeah, if you take a look at, and the reason I asked that is because of the issues of drainage, sheet flow, the watershed, and also, curious enough, it does abut the highway, but there'll be plenty of screening and sound abatement from the existing foliage within the DOT right away for 295, but that grading plan, I think, is a key issue with how this is all gonna work out. Just my opinion, given the question of public water and sewer, but that's gonna be the number one problem for your engineer.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and there's multiple ways town engineer had commented on maybe putting retaining walls. It's always been our policy to grade the site, because the walls become, a depreciating asset over time, and homeowners just, it becomes something of, nobody ever wants to maintain it. So you have deferred maintenance. So we prefer to just grade it out. And, that's what you can see, the limited disturbance, how tight they are in respect to the lot sizes.
So, one more question, if I may. That great, fantastic drainage that's in the state right away, working so great. So if it's defective now,
Right.
and the litany of stories from my co-member here are truly fascinating, ice skating on front yards and stuff. But who the heck is responsible for, if it's broken now, who's responsible for repairing what's in there now? Not to mention what your engineers come up with that may require some kind of expansion and capacity in the infrastructure out there. So
it's DOT's infrastructure. It's within their state right of way. And what's needed is, probably a call from the public works director or the town engineer to the local maintenance division. I think there's one in Smithfield that covers northern Rhode Island. And those guys and girls will jet that first and foremost. And then if it's collapsed, hopefully they can just slip line that and fix it. So I think it's two approaches.
So you may not be footing the full bill for that.
Well, if they're not going to clean it or replace it, we certainly will. It benefits us to do so, and we'll ask them if we can. It's not a hard lift. Our public works could do it, but they can't work within the state highway. We have a vac truck, a jet truck. You just can't.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Charlie has another.
I got another question about that. As soon as we're on the subject. Suppose the state says that that thing, they're just gonna clean it. They're not gonna make it bigger. They're not gonna do anything about that, or something like that. Reason I ask is because we have a problem up where Conti's property is, where it's flowing, water's coming across the street and it's flowing into a guy who owns a machine shop or something. And they get into a problem, a fight over who's responsible after the fact, you know, like that, making it bigger, who's gonna clean it, whose fault is it? The state's gonna say that you caused the problem for the overflow, that's gonna be your fault, you're gonna say that it's their fault because they didn't fix it in the first place, or that pipe should be a 15-inch instead of a 10-inch.
We're not looking to make it bigger. We just want to make it operational so that when we route our drainage to it, it conveys the water like it should. You're right. You don't want to make it any smaller because you'll have upstream problems. You don't want to make it any bigger because you'll have downstream problems. We just know that it doesn't function today because it's partially crushed and filled with sand.
Has the state been, have you talked to the state anything about this, about what what their concerns are, or if they think, you know, it's your problem, his problem, you know?
No,
Have you talked to them?
we will talk to them eventually if this is approved through the PAP process, but the town can talk to them at any time. They can, you know, discuss with
I'm
them.
just saying, because we have a real problem going on about this, about whose fault is what, on the
That's
size of the
another
drain.
matter not on the agenda tonight. I don't want to wade into it, but yeah, that's all. DP, it's all DOT.
Michael?
I think you'll hear from a couple of the butters who have contacted DOT about this problem. I know that they've reached out and DOT is aware of it. Didn't say when they were gonna get to it, but you're aware of it.
Because of the problems we're having up the street.
Is it possible that your design could not rely on diverting to the culvert?
Everything naturally moves easterly to Old County Road. There is no way that we'd be able to.
No, any increased flow?
Oh, that will be the law, at a minimum, that there'll be no increase in flow anyway. That's why we're not looking to make that
Right.
culvert bigger. We just need it to function.
So for example, right now, there's going to be flow irrespective of construction activities that you're not
Yes.
responsible for.
Yes.
My question is, your design will capture any increased flow, so there's a net equilibrium.
Yeah, so if there are, 10 buckets of water going to that culvert today, and there's gonna be 14 after this subdivision, our drainage will capture at least 4, if not 5 buckets, hold it till the storm passes, and then lets it out. That's the basis of the design.
Point being, this proposed plan and subdivision is not increasing the flow that's expected in that culvert in its condition today, repair or otherwise.
Yes, thank you for that. That's true. We just know that we can't discharge down the road when we see.
I understand. Okay, that's what I thought, but I wanted to.
Yeah, thank you
just ask
for the
that
clarification.
Jim, just so everybody knows, that has been worked on numerous times over the years. And no solution.
It's a simple, it's
Dig it
just a
out,
box with a
they dig
pipe
it
through
out,
it.
They throw gravel in and the water still continues to come over the road.
Yeah, there's no pretreatment, so it's right, there's no sumps, there's no pretreatment, and so it's a rudimentary, it's an old technology.
Yeah, my point is that it's probably a problem. It may have nothing to do with this proposed project is.
Correct.
Okay, any other questions? Do we have anyone else presenting before we open up for public hearing?
No.
Okay. It's now 7:08. We're going to open the matter for public hearing. If anyone would like to be heard, please come forward. We're going to have one at a time, state your name. Well, you both can come forward, but state your name and we're going to have your.
Across the street.
Okay.
I have video of all that flooding and I have contacted.
All right, we gotta wait. We gotta swear you in. We gotta have your name on the record and then we're gonna give you a, sir?
Yes, my name is John Zuluaga. I live directly across the street from the lot.
Okay, we're gonna have you sworn in.
Z as in zebra, ULUAGA. John?
Okay, and the other gentleman, should we swear him in now?
First name is Matthew, last name is Fage, F-A-G-U-E.
She goes.
Yes, I do.
Sir?
All right, so, let me just provide some context. So, well, let me put it this way. So first is like the noise part. So obviously the lot currently, so that it's a single lot, it's subdivided, they want to subdivide for 3 lots. Developing 3 properties will require a larger environmental footprint, which will lead to an increase in noise pollution. And and not to mention, it will to also alter the natural flow, the dispersion of the water. One of the things that I would like to ask is I would like the planning board to require a noise pollution test to understand the noise implications based on, the lot clearing for a single unit scenario versus a 3-unit scenario. The other thing that I would like to ask the planning board is the engineer and the developer to reduce the LOD at its deepest, to minimize the clearance of the trees, in the event any of this stuff moves forward. Ultimately to reduce the highway noise. I also would like the planning board to consider asking the developer to add a tree buffer noise reducing the evergreens to mitigate the noise in the winter months. Again, not that I'm in for it, but I would like you to
I can't
consider all
hear.
these things.
No.
Can you just speak a little slower?
All right. So you just, yes, so right now, as it is, it's very noisy there with the highway.
Yeah,
Never mind,
true.
like in the winter. So one of the things that I want you guys to consider is a noise test. If this project were ever to get cleared out, it would significantly increase the noise where we live. Same goes, like, I don't want to think about, like, the first thing that comes to mind is like whatever they're developing in Johnston. Like, it's so noisy there. I don't want Smithfield to become that. So I'm asking the planning board, what is there in place that we can do to assess the noise that will be created by developing this project?
Are you concerned with the construction activity or after the construction activity?
After the construction activity. I know what the construction activity would do as far as noise is concerned, but, after they're done with it, there'll be too noisy. And that's just one of the problems that I see. The other problem is what you guys have been talking about the whole time, which is the water drainage issues. I live on that lot across the street. There's water flowing through there normally. The problem is not that, the problem is the whole hill. The whole thing bleeds water every time it rains. Every time there's like wet conditions for weeks, that thing will bleed money, bleed water. And there will be like runoff, excess runoff, like sitting on there. It creates like hazardous conditions for pedestrians, students that go to, Old County Road. And they're like, I don't even have to say about like the cars, there's been accidents there. I had a car flip over, not as a result of any excess water in there. It was as a result of the snow, but, there's, I don't live down by the post office to see what goes down there, but like they just salt the road left and right, because of the water issue that we have in that road. So I don't think there's much of an issue with the water going over that little, what do you call it? To call it. It's just like that whole hill is a water problem. The state came and tried to like fix some areas, the drainage, and we're still seeing water there. He'll speak, I have pictures of like water coming in right into my lot and like flowing like a river in there. We had, my neighbor has complained or has raised this to the attention of DOT, but still, nothing has been solved. So in regards to like the water drainage issues, obviously I don't have to tell you guys what kind of tests you need to do, because it seems like there's things that need to be done after this moves forward, but consider requiring additional flood and soil drainage tests. I also asked the planner to ask the town solicitor to review the HOA documents that they're proposing to make sure that there's protections in place in the event of a proposed private road, and that if it fails, or in the event that there's excess runoff from the private road and causes damages to my property or any other properties, that the HOA has, I guess it's put, I don't know much of legal terms what needs to be there, but the residents are protected in case that something does not go according to plan after they develop that. Also, I like the planning board, and this is like, maybe it's too early on, but consider the issuance of a performance bond on the developer or the builder, or even the property owners of those 3 lots, which should serve as a warranty against any future water excess runoff, related damages arising from either poor planning or subpar execution of plans. Any questions on that?
You want a bond.
Sorry?
Bonds.
I'm a what?
Bondage that.
Yeah, bondage, yes. Yeah.
You're looking for bonds and stuff like that. Yeah, we have bonds in place as it is.
Mr. Chairman.
Hang on, one at a
But
time.
I don't think that's what you can ask for. You're looking for bonds for the rest of their life there, or is that what the home, the people who buy that house, you're looking for bonds from them, people who buy that house for eternity? How long of a bond you looking for?
Well, if this is being considered an HOA and that's a private road, which I'll discuss some options on that. The HOA people, if they are not able to maintain that road and the water becomes a problem, subpar building, it could be just the way that the storms continue.
Yeah.
And it does come down, it comes across, and any drainage that's currently there does not remediate the water. It does cross the road, causes him undue burden. I've had to redo my yard recently because of the amount of water. There's gotta be some type of bond in place that if the HOA doesn't have the money or goes defunct, now the town has to take that on and to put a lien on their property. So now the town, in a sense, is maintaining or responsible for a private road. Am I correct?
I don't think that would be he would know more about it than I would. I'm just, we usually hold a bond till it's done and then it makes sure that we go out, the fire department checks, everybody checks everything, make sure it's all right. After a year, we release it. That's usually how it goes, but you're asking for something completely different, I
But
guess.
as the chair lady was saying about another culvert that's supposed to be holding water or the one that's overflowing. So what's going on in that end of town? Is it legal action the residents are taking against what, the property owners, or they go back against the town? So that property is very steep. We hike it. Born and raised here in town, built a house. My wife, Milk Corey, everybody remembers Milk Corey. I used to plant a garden with him. It would stay wet in July. We could not plant because across the street, the amount of groundwater that comes under the road, let alone what goes over the road. I do have a thumb drive that will show you the water conditions. I have reached out to Department of DOT. I work in public safety, was driving to work one day. A young girl coming to school almost hit me head on north of this property because of the way the water was flowing down. People think it's a straightaway. It's a blind curve going left towards Old County. It's a little bit of a blind curve on the right coming back up towards Farnham Pike. The water does flow down to Farnham Pike. They tried to remediate it. Boyle Fogarty came through, redid the water lines and everything, and it was their task to help fix some of those problems, which have not been remediated the way I think it should have been done. And when I called the DOT, they came out and they pretty much, Ralph Perry's old property, he had filled in all the culverts down up Old County towards 44 down to that retention pond that was put in there. And that has caused flooding. They have been out since that opened up those old pipes. They also put and cut out the entrance to Ralph's old property where his nephew's living, and they put another pipe under there. The water still comes down, it still backs up, still crests the road, doesn't go as far out into the road. But once you start disturbing that land up there, regardless, I know they're gonna have a big work pile. Once they start scabbing all the loam and the gravel out of there, you're just gonna get down to ledge. There's a lot of ledge up there.
Yep.
And that's another concern. What happens when they stop blasting if they can't mechanically remove it? So again, talking about bonds, is there insurance for that or?
Well, like I said, we normally have bonds if it's finished, a thing, but you're asking for something different.
I think they're talking about two things. One is the HOA document. I've been involved in projects where I had to do the same thing. The homeowner documents get submitted to the town, and the town solicitor or the town solicitor planning reviews those HOA documents. And they have to be recorded along with the HOA being part of the Secretary of State Corporation. In those HOA documents, it'll specifically say how the HOA is required to maintain the drainage areas, the basins, the road. And if it's not being done, then the town can step in, fix it, and lien all of those properties for the money. In order so they're insured their money. So if that property sells down the road by somebody, then whoever owned lot one, their money goes back to the town. That had to be put specifically in the HOA documents that I had.
Is it joint and several or is it individual?
Joint and several.
It's it would be individual to each lot. So it would be whatever.
An apportionment?
Yeah, it'd probably be an apportionment at that.
So if somebody's not paying, they'll get more versus the other, yeah, okay. Is anybody in town that has that?
I'm not sure who had HOAs.
Is Colin Way an HOA?
No.
That's not a private road. Okay.
The concern with that is if it gets bad enough where the town has to step in, no one's gonna buy the property, we're never gonna make our money back, right?
Say that again.
The problem with that, like if I'm playing that out in my mind, is the property gets so bad where the town has to step in and then you lean the homeowners association or the individuals, but then who's gonna buy those lots if it's in that much disrepair? So it's almost like the town just foots the bill and that's the end.
Has that happened yet?
Unless you're lucky enough to sell them, who's gonna buy that if it's in that much disrepair? You know,
Like the HOA, those three owners, as a collective HOA.
Yeah.
We have to come up with a way to pay the town back if somebody wants to sell their lot. Otherwise.
They're stuck.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's not really an answer to the problem, it's just maybe.
It's because practically speaking, someone's gonna wanna sell their lot at some point. And the town will get some of that money back over time, that fact. Eventually, the people who own those lots die. And their estate is gonna do something with that property to transfer it, and the town gets money. The town's gonna outlive everybody who owns these lots. We may not see it.
He's got a
Second
point.
part of it was you talking about the bond, maybe what they're talking about the performance bond. So that to ensure that the bond money is released, is there an assurance that the drainage is placed the way it's supposed to be? So that doesn't become an issue for them.
Sure.
I think that's what they're talking about, the bond, before you release all the bond.
I would just like to know what everybody's talking about before we even, it sounds.
Those are the two things. Those are the two things that.
That's the way it goes, okay. I believe this way.
Part of it's the performance bond that's presented.
Right, Joe. Member Rutello has a question or comment.
A question, first of all, to the both gentlemen that testified. What I'm hearing is that there's been a continuing water issue on this road coming from probably this land and adjacent properties. Am I correct?
It's primarily, it'll go, we'll call it north and south, north
Right.
up the narrow drive where the heavy part of the wetlands
Yeah.
are. And I walk the road every night. The water's constantly coming down, flowing through a makeshift gully over there. The culvert that's failing, I believe, is on a different piece of property. That's not your property, that's, state. Yep, but so they also have a septic system right next to that culvert. And I know that for a fact because, living on the road, tending to Mr. Corey over the years, a landscaper went to that property and, came over to me and says, hey, anything that I need to know about over here? They weren't not general landscapers from the area. I said, do not drive your vehicles on the front lawn. Well, I come back an hour later after doing some errands, their dump truck was through the septic system over there. The front yard stays very, very wet. It drains down. And at one point, water from the septic system used to go egress the road and polluted a well that Mr. Corey had, a hand dug well on his property. So, as far as the water line, I believe, the water's the full length of Old County. We do not have gas. Sewers ended at Wolf Hill Road coming north, for the primary reason back in the day, is Perry owned the farm, frontage, right, sewage frontage, had to be taxed by the amount of feet. And the road was old back in the day. It was never paved all the way through. It ended at Wolf Hill. And then Farnham Pike was there. And then I believe in probably the late sixties, early seventies, they paved it all the way through. Part of the problem was the amount of ledge. And that's the other thing. These test holes I see up there, some of that's what mostly to find out where the water is. I know for a fact, there's a lot of ledge up there that comes down from Wolf Hill, crosses over 295. You can see the canyons. It's gonna come down. That's a very steep slope up there. Even when I built my house, where my driveway is, adjacent to my garage, we broke an excavator with the amount of ledge that we pulled out of there. It was either blast or get a bigger machine, and I paid to have a bigger machine come in and pop it out of there. I'm concerned about blasting in the future. He bought Mr. Corey's property, put up a nice house. The others built that very nicely. And as far as blasting and stuff, we all know what happens because you got the property just south of Old County Road School. Same thing, supposed to be organized, notices on when they were gonna blast and whatnot, and then what, I'm sure the town had multiple complaints because they blasted whenever they felt like blasting. You look at that property when you drive by, the amount of earth that they moved in there now have stockpiled.
Yeah.
It's an eyesore. The way that they put their retention ponds in over there, I don't know how Pam's bond has not fallen in on the back of the property line over there. It's just, we have very much concerns about the water. And you take a walk over there any day, you take a walk over there in the middle of July, or even now in August, I know it's raining today, you'll find plenty of water over there. You have the whole hill of 295 that comes down, 295 is raised up, if I'm correct. Comes down an embankment, then the property starts and just continues to come all the way down. As you go further towards the post office, it does level out. There's a nice old rye field up there where the cows used to pasture up there. I don't see why we as abutters should have to take on a burden if he's gonna deforest that whole area, change the current view that we have. At the same time, I think he has a substandard lot there that he's asking for 3 lots and looking for permission to do that. But in the meantime, he's gonna be grubbing out more trees, taking out more soil. And I'm sure he's gonna run into ledge. I can guarantee that.
Well, assuming he runs into that and there's a pile of material there.
Yeah.
There's already 3 piles of material on Old County Road. There's one near the land trust at the beginning of Old County Road, in by D'Angelo Land Trust. There is another pile of dirt diagonal from the school. There's the pile of dirt from the Old County Village. So, there's like pile of dirt's like showing up there, and what protections are there in place? So if this were ever to get approved, and they start digging, nothing happens. It's not feasible to do it. They have a pile of dirt there. It's just another one, there's no.
Yeah, no, the part about the private road, I have a right of way deeded on the side of my property that I had to do.
Oh, yeah, that's another pile.
Because when we built our house, the original right of way was on Milton Corey's side yard where that culvert goes under and goes across the road over there. DEM said, no, you can't put a right of way there because of the wetlands. We had to flip the property, which made my lot substandard. We had to rework it so we can get proper frontage to meet the zoning. It stays wet. When he was building, I said, John, I don't know what you plan on doing over there. I said, but that's gonna stay wet until, he's got a nice little field there, but if he tries to dig or do anything over there, he hits water. He'll hit water
Oh, yeah.
until the end of August, until the ground starts freezing. I never had a water problem on my property when I built. The DEM, when they came out, did the test holes with us. My builder said, you'll never have a problem here. Because the way that the storms have changed and the amount of water that's coming off that road, everybody's like, oh, it's just a dam. No, it still gets under it, but better yet, it gets over it. I had a lot of runoff, a lot of damage was done to my yard. I contacted the state. I said, hey, what are we doing with this water? He's like, well, it's nature. We're just in bad times right now. I ripped out half my front yard and side yard and regraded things, put in different soil base and whatnot. And I know for a fact, the right of way on my side that Boyle and Fogarty used as a work site, there's water that runs down along the side of that, down towards the back. There's a spring behind the farmhouse that's not on this picture, which is next door to my house on the left. So if I was facing Old County, it would be on my left. There's a spring under there. There's a pond behind that farmhouse. There's a lot of water in general in this whole area here. I have since had to put some tanks in my basement because when we do get these rains and storms now, I do have water in my basement where the pumps are running. Never had this before. If I can put the thumb drive in, I'll show the amount of water that does come across the road. And even at times when it freezes, they've remediated it a little bit. It's not as bad, but they still have to salt and sand a lot.
We asked one question of he'd like to produce a thumb drive of some photographs or video. We're going to need to mark that as an exhibit and keep possession of it.
Yes.
Hope it's just my videos. No, just kidding. My wife's a little nervous.
Mr. Fig, while we're waiting for this, which property, you're the property on the picture, correct?
251 Old County Road. which
In
is-
that photo?
Well, it's across the street.
Okay, and Mr. Fig, which one are you?
47, which I'm adjacent to him.
To mine.
And across the street.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, both on the opposite side of the street. Okay. Neither of you are the property on the same side. correct? Okay.
And just this,
For the record.
I never got a notice.
I was gonna say, some other neighbors further away got a notice. He's my direct neighbor. I went to the mailbox and as soon as I opened up the notice for the hearing, I took a picture. I sent it to him and said, get this today. He has since never got one. So I mean, I gave him proper notice, I would think, but.
Okay, we're gonna mark the thumb drive as your last name again, sir?
It's big, FAGUE.
Fay Exhibit 1.
So this is just looking, I got a little drawing I put up. So this is the road. The road's an old, I would say a little bit of a pound road. But that's the field. That lot is a separate lot right now. So where the tree line is behind that is where I believe, house number 3 is proposed as a house one. I think it's one. But anyways, there's that lot. My kids would sled down that lot and could ski down that lot. That's how steep that is. All right, especially in the winter. That lot was recently looked at by someone attempting to purchase it. It wasn't just the price that scared them away. A local contractor in town said, stay away from that lot. We're gonna have nothing but water problems. And that might have been the guy that worked on the water line on the river that wanted that person not to do that.
It's just a clicker. Just the mouse.
An aerial view again. So again, we're talking about deforestation. So my driveway is the first driveway on the left. You can't see, that's John's driveway right there with the 2 little green bushes on it. What's that?
There might be a laser.
Yeah.
over there.
I didn't know, because there's gonna be one connection.
Okay. So, just over Mr. D'Ambra's head there, that's John's driveway. That's his little, grass bushes there in his mailbox. So John's directly across from that. The proposed right of way of the driveway is just to the left of the driveway across the street of the current property. When the gentleman that came to put the excavator there to go up and do the perk pipes up in the back up here, you can still see the tracks.
He's gonna try to be slower.
You can still see the tracks, how wet it was when he went up there just now before, not even raining. Look, he went down a dry day. I think he was smart when he did that. Again, looking at the slope of the hill going up, you can see it. Again, so the driveway will come up here. Behind this lot right here, this is where one house would be, and then they're gonna start deforesting this. I don't understand why we should take on a burden of having our view change and maybe more noise pollution. So he can squeeze in his 3rd lot if that's granted. The 2, that's gonna be less amount of clearing up there. On the backside of 295 on that hill right there, you gotta remember, it's the canyon that goes down to Farnham Pike underneath 295. And you can hear the trucks jake braking, you can hear the motorcycles racing, and especially when they get under the overpass. So now if you clear this up, it's gonna create a nice bowl and it's gonna give us louder noise. This whole area down here is wet continuously, and I'm gonna show you some pictures. The culvert that he's talking about is right here. It flows through the brook that's over here. This is where the proposed right of way was for the property that was supposed to be deeded, and it had to come over to my side of the house. Again, just some more pictures. So again, just put the drawing up a little bit higher to show you how we're looking at the canopy of the trees. And again, you're gonna see 295 is up here. So you just picture the slope. I know, I think it was, Mr. Boyd was concerned about the angle, the slopes. Now you start to get to 295, you can see 295 right up there. Again, if you got open up all this, even though there's, I'm not sure the setback, was it 100 feet off the state property?
Yeah, 100 feet off this, yeah.
So, and me as a butter, I would request that maybe they increase that buffer so that it's less trees that come out of there. When I sit in my house and I look up in the winter with the deforestation with the trees, I can almost see lights, the top of like box trucks and tractor trailers.
Yeah.
If you cut all these trees down, I'm gonna see all the highway traffic. And again, there's 295 right here. And this is all the proposed area right here. That's John's house right there that we're talking about. This whole area right here is where the road acts as a dam, and the water's supposed to flow this way. And look at the back. So, This is one of the pictures about, this is the lot that's just adjacent to it. This is how much water comes down from the top of that hill. And that's on any given day, maybe November through February or March.
Do you have a date on that?
I can probably find it in the original.
You've had unprecedented rainstorms.
Yep, so let me,
December,
I understand that, and that's the other, they're using a 2015 flood data to talk about the water in their slope. I would think that there's a newer data out there that's probably not as old as 2015 because we had those floods and whatnot, and I think there's better data. This is when I called the state and I say, hey, you gotta do something about this water, because two, it's a traffic hazard for the first part of it, and the second part of it is it's encroaching and probably leading under the road to where it's causing the erosion of my property. So this is where you see Mr. Parry's old property here. This culvert pipe was filled in. There's all stone pebble going down, all the way down this side of Old County. I can reach out to the DOT and ask for my original email that has all these pictures where it's frozen out across the road. But they fixed the culvert right here. They put a plastic pipe underneath this section of driveway here. They don't come out and maintain it. The guy across the street, me, goes over there and pulls the sticks out of it, the leaves out of it, to try to keep it flowing so it doesn't come back up on the road. My concern at the time was two young drivers learning to drive, coming to and from school and events, this road at any given time, nighttime or early morning. And you can just see how it just collects and flows. And then when it gets to the point where it can't stay in the channel, it does come out across the road. This is a little bit of thawing going on here, but it freezes. And there it is in the roadway in front of Roger and Pauline's house, which I think is
I have it here.
236.
No, it's an odd number.
Yeah, and again, they fixed most of it, but it still likes to come down and creep out into the road. And I'm just concerned that once we start disturbing that slope for this project, we're gonna start having more water running. And these pictures may be 2 years old. I can find it because I also emailed DOT to have them come out. They sent the engineers out. I had better pictures than this because I also took pictures of Farnham Pike in Old County because the water ran the other way. So when Providence Water redid the water line, part of the whole project there was Boyle Fogarty was supposed to work on some of the drainage there as well. And they did some of it. They fixed a few of the culverts. Todd Manny's house, they put a couple of the there's like riprap with chicken wire and with a culverts trying to, keep the water flowing. But the other problem is there's no maintenance. So, which leads to some of this. But if their systems are designed to take the extra 4 gallons of water that he's saying out of the 10, but still it's gonna be displaced somewhere. So, I'll leave this up for a minute.
Mr. Chairman.
I've lived in the area. Sorry.
Sir, the pictures you showed, how high up was the camera that you were taking?
On my drone?
It was done by a drone.
So the ones with the slope anywhere from 100 feet up to maybe 280. I don't go up to the 400. 400 feet's the max.
Those were drone photos of the area.
Yep. When you look at the ones he presented, just the topography, you don't really see it. You just see the highway, the flatness and everything else. If somebody was to go over there and walk that, you would see and say, wow, it's almost like they're building into a cliffside, but it's going to be a sloppy cliffside because of the amount of water.
And second question, you said that these pictures were taken over 2 years ago?
Approximately 2 years ago, because I did it in a series of twice because I finally said, you know what, I tried calling down there and then I said, you know what, I'm going to email, put it on paper this time.
I'd like to add that, obviously we haven't been doing the rains recently, but November 11th of this year, 2023 and December 18th of 2023, I have pictures, water just overflowing like a river right into my property. It's, I don't know how to, I can pass you my phone. Is that what we display them on the screen?
Can you hook
We
the
have to
phone
like
up?
retain it.
Huh?
We would have to keep it like as.
All right,
evidence,
can I
yeah.
email them or you can look at them?
So the other thing with the driveway, the right of way of the
I
road,
can pass it around, but I can.
absent of it being a town road, the narrowness of it. All right, so yeah, Smithfield has these brand new fire trucks, these big trucks.
Then if that's coming.
We're gonna go one at a time. And
That's
I,
not
I
a
don't
good
know if we can do
Oh,
that.
that's not a good idea.
No, we can't do that. No, I don't think so.
If you want to email something to the board
Yeah.
as a testimony, like that's fine, yeah.
Just because it would be, now we get a memory of something that doesn't.
So the width of the road, standard road, I believe is 50 feet in the town. For reasons possible sidewalks, drainage, lighting, whatever they make or mandate now. Doing the 30 feet, now he wants to knock it down to 20. That fire truck, he shows you the length of it, but that truck is gonna need about 12 to 15 feet of width. So if he drops that down to 20, by the time they put the outriggers up on that truck, you're not gonna be able to get other vehicles up that road. The steepness of that, the fire trucks, they come with these chains that scrape the road as the tires turn and everything. But if that road's private and the contractor that's being paid to maintain it doesn't come out because the town's out plowing, but yet the contractor hasn't got out there yet. And now there's an emergency where they need a rescue up there. Young lady's having a baby or something. The
Wow.
highway department gonna back up the thing, sand it and plow it? Probably because if they're in a panic mode, but as far as the guardrail that he has designed on there, is that gonna be an elevated road? Because now if it's elevated, not following the slope of the contour of the land, is that gonna act as a dam and create more problems? Are they gonna have culverts under that? I don't understand it, what the condition of the private road is. Is that gonna be elevated or is that gonna follow the contour up?
We can't ask the questions like that, but he'll respond if he deems
So-
it appropriate.
I've got a question.
Yep.
You say you're in contact with DEM and stuff, and everything. What is
D-
DEM?
DOT.
The department, what are they, do you have any paperwork on where?
I sent them an email. I'm gonna reach out to them, see if
Right again?
he wants to, he wants to know who I contacted and do I have any paperwork?
Those, the paperwork that you have.
I-
Do you get copies and see?
I'm
see
gonna
what they think,
contact-
See what the problem is, stuff like that?
Yep.
I don't, how much louder do you want me to get, man?
My fault.
I would like to see the paperwork that you have.
Yep. So I'm gonna
To
attempt
see
to,
who they are blaming on, where it's coming from and where it's coming like that. And also, I think we, as a board, we should all just go take a site walk because everybody's got this, I'm trying to figure out what the angle is on this, what's going over there. It's gonna get into a point where it's like.
there's,
need
and
to
I
look at
believe
it.
some of the water that comes through there is not just from the ledge of 295. I believe there's a culvert up there, if I remember right from walking it, there's water that comes in underneath from the other side of 295 or the median that comes back under there as well. So you really gotta see it to, it's a nice hike. You can hike the whole width of the highway and get different elevations and
I
whatnot.
would personally like to see it because like I said, by looking at it, I can't really tell whose problem it is. I can only judge by heights this way, that way, what flows downhill, but
Yeah, and
I don't know what's interrupting it.
so
A rock can shift the water this way, your driveway can shift the water, a tree can shift the water, a cat, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna, we can look at trees, everything, it's like.
the
As far
slope,
as to the sound thing like that, I think if they looked into the contractors, they should be able to put a buffer in there for you.
or have a sound study done from what it is presently
Yeah,
to,
correct, yeah.
so, as far as, again, getting back to public safety, the fire department's concerned about the slope. I'd be concerned about the slope as me driving my truck up there or my car, because if it's icy and then they're not gonna have a salt barn or anything, but you know, somebody's gonna put a barrel out there with salt and sand so they can throw it on there. Yeah, so, and then, let's see, I don't want to take any more time, but, it's just a concern. It's gonna change the view of what we currently see. I understand, you know, people have the right to build, but if we're gonna take on a hardship, because you really need the 3 lots, why not do 2? And shrink it down, maybe less tree cutting, less removal of the soil in the loom. Anything else?
No, pretty much covers it, and I don't know the rules for DEM. Based on what I saw on the plans, there's nothing in tests, the area where, there's DEM had, jurisdiction, wetlands. That's really the lot number 3 is going, but surely there's a due process that looks into that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other members of the public that would like to be heard on this matter?
If this, each, you want to entertain and say.
Yeah, we're not gonna close the public hearing. I got it. Thank you. Because it seems like that there's more than one member that would like to do that, so that's probably what's going to happen. If you could state your name and we're gonna have you sworn in, sir.
Good evening. My name is John Mangasara. Trust me. M-A-N. Yeah. A-R.
If you could state your address.
Excuse me. First of all, I met with the planning board informally the other day, and they're fantastic. I just want to say, they're very cooperative and very informative.
Very nice to hear.
The DOT issue, I've contacted, Mike was alluding to, I contacted them. And I have documentation that I contacted them about the COVID. And they said they would address it, they have. And what's gonna happen is that Old County Road's gonna cave in at that location because the COVID isn't holding up the land on the side. So that's gonna be a future issue, so the town may want to give them a nudge. In no particular order, and reviewing the prints, there, like Matt said, when they did the waterway, the new water lines on Old County Road, on everyone's driveway, they reconstructed everyone's driveway to take water, all right, so the water would travel. There's no plan, in the plans, there's nothing on what the threshold's gonna look like there. So the water's just gonna go out into the street, as the guys portrayed. It's good that both you ladies have slid on that ice, all right, but I apologize for being repetitive, but it's a disaster, and it's towards the post office, it's a tremendous hazard. Where he has those arrows up I really don't have a dog in the fight unless the water goes that way, and he's showing that the D10 pond, the water is going on that side of that neighbor that isn't in attendance today. Once the water goes in there in that wetland, that whole Denaro Drive, we all have sumps in our basement, and we have issues. So you have the hazard issue, if the water is diverted towards the school, I don't have a dog in the fight. But that's not what he's showing here. He's showing that really all of us are gonna be impacted. And then everyone's already described how it gets icy there, how treacherous it is. When somebody mentioned earlier about the snow, where is his snow removal gonna go? He really has no place for snow removal, which is gonna compound the water runoff when the snow melts. Matt mentioned that as far as the clearing, that thing is a ski slope. It's good that you're gonna go out and look at that. That is not a flat land. That's a ski slope. And when you take those trees away, that water is just gonna rush the whole property, everything that they cleared. And if you look in the lower right, on the this side of the driveway, that has no forestation now, right now. And I think Matt showed a picture where that's underwater now. All right, and now picture taking all those trees away, it's just gonna flood that, and the road will take the runoff from the people's downspouts. But that's a very insignificant amount compared to what's gonna come off that road, right? And into that lot. And if it goes across the street for John, he's gonna be swimming out of his property. As far as the COVID goes, if you insist that the contractor has to take care of reconstruct that culvert or participate in that, there should be something that it has to be maintained. I developed a property in North Providence where they made me clear that every year. I had to go and dredge a culvert, much like that every year. All right, so that should be a must, because that's the only salvation on that side of the property, is to get that culvert worked properly. The noise that John alluded to, I'm on Denaro Drive, which is another lot towards the post office. And I hear the same thing they hear, and I have all the trees, I have all the wetland, and they clear out this area here. You're just gonna be like next to the highway. And it's almost like an echo chamber, in our homes. And what the plans show is two little green boxes on the bottom of the road, and that's supposed to hold the water that runs down the road. Also an overflow from that detent pond, right? I researched those things the other day, and all they are is kind of holding tanks. And then they seep into the groundwater like this, which is gonna make that even more marshy in that area, because all the water that's there is, in theory, supposed to be collected in those two boxes and dispersed underneath that road in those two boxes. Right, so that whole thing that's underwater now is just gonna get infiltrated with all the water that's gonna come off there. Right, so put at the top of the list the hazard of that icing, and then after that, it's really a tremendous inconvenience to the neighbors. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Any members of the public that wish to be heard further today? That's okay. If you could state your name and address, then we'll have you sworn in.
Yes. I want to just corroborate what my neighbors. all
Closer
said.
to the
This
microphone.
area is
If you could get a little closer to the mic.
This area is very wet, including the farm field that's not part of this. And if it is cleared, there's gonna be a lot more water flowing down as well as the noise considerations. I could see maybe fitting one house on that lot, but by tearing down all the trees and clearing it, I guarantee you it's a water problem, because it's already a water problem. Because we live on Denara Drive directly across from all the green section there. And yeah, water is constantly streaming down that whole hill, and there's water along the street most of the time. So I just wanted to back up what my neighbors said.
Thank you. What's that? You'd like to say something again? You could state your name again. You've already been sworn. John Zulaga. You've already been sworn. Go ahead.
This may not really have to do with the whole thing here, but I would like to know what the process is for informing people. So I did not get a letter. I'm not sure if the person across the street from me received the letter.
So state law has changed. That it's just a regular mail notice. Mr. Suzuala was on the butters list.
So presumably he got notice?
We got notice because Jeffrey did that press.
Is that the town's responsibility or?
The town.
Mails, letters, what was listed by the applicant.
Or the applicant?
It was on the list.
It was on your list?
In case it's a problem, it used to be a requirement for certified mail, it's no longer a requirement for certified mail.
The new changes?
Last couple of years.
So he was on the list. Presumably it was mail. He did not, for whatever reason, receive it.
There a way to require that for anything related to this, we receive proper notice?
Well, presumably, I think the town's position is they did send notice for whatever reason. You did not get it. We previously had another method of notice requiring certified mail, but the legislature in their wisdom with a lot of different changes they've made it away with that. With certified mailing, there would have been proof of the notice, but that's above and beyond. It's not.
I understand that.
It's not the town's fault.
Yeah.
It's not the board's fault. It's not the applicant's fault. Good thing you have some good neighbors that alerted you and you're here today. That's the biggest thing. Okay. Thank you. Would the applicant like to respond at all to any of the comments? The board may have some questions based upon the applicant's comments.
Yeah, I'm obviously the main crux is drainage. For this to go forward, we need multiple drainage permits from your town engineer, from the Department of Transportation and Department of Environmental Management. So this will go through the typical process and it'll have multiple engineers reviewing it and signing off on it.
What might be helpful, the roadway had, it looks like a detention collection method to collect water. One of the abutters had some concerns. Can you explain the process of how that water gets out of the collection in that it's not, I assume it's designed for a slow release over time as opposed to.
Yeah, so if you look at the drainage there, Chairman. So you have,
Not so much to the detention ponds, I'm talking about the.
Yeah, so these are underground injection control. Those are actually when we put the road in, those are in fill material. So they're not in the natural grade. The way the road will have to get up to grade quickly, will be able to infiltrate and fill. So you'll have plenty of separation between the groundwater table and discharging that. And it does just that. Water comes down that pathway today. Those are designed to collect the increase in runoff. It's going to infiltrate it into the ground. Once it's overtaken, which will be about the 25 or 100-year storm. So you're talking about 5-6 inches of rain in a 24-hour period. Water will come out of those basins and discharge onto Old County Road like it does today. We've got to prove to the DOT that the water on Old County Road, it's going to be less than it is today. And it's going to be cleaner than it is today. And we're confident we can do that with those type of drainage structures in fill material.
Any questions of the board members? Charlie?
The resident had a couple of questions, and I see you have some answers here. But I was just wondering about the snow removal. It says it won't be stored in near any of the areas where it can drain or add to, correct?
Right. So what you can't,
Where would it be, Joe?
so what you can't do is you don't want to put the snow along, you don't want to put it inside the ponds because then all the pollutants from the snow ends up going in the ponds. Charlie, you've plowed snow for many years for the town of Smithfield. You and I would both plow this driveway the same way, right? You're gonna blade this thing, put everything to one side, and you're gonna put it in the corner of the parking in that area. It's pretty simple. It's pretty simple, whether you do it as Public Works or whether we have a third party, it's pretty benign plowing a cul-de-sac.
Then there's enough room in there to put an average snowfall, you figure?
Absolutely. And when you have, if it's counterintuitive. You can't complain that the roadways aren't wide enough, yet there's going to be not enough areas to put the snow. So you don't need a 50-foot wide right of way and 30 feet of pavement for 3 single-family homes. Old County Road isn't that wide, and it handles quite a bit more than that.
And his other question were about the fire truck.
Part of the process, and it'll be contingent upon, if we don't have approval by the fire marshal, we're not going anywhere. We need the fire department to sign off on this. You all know as well as I do that the authority having jurisdiction in this case will be the town of Smithfield. We've got fire lanes that are 16 feet wide. We have private roadways in this town that are 20 feet wide. And so the fire department, that's purposely why we located the hydrant where we did, because that's where they're going to stage. They're not going to stage on a 10% incline and preclude rescues from getting in and out of there. So
His concerns are enough. Fire marshal's not gonna let it go anyway.
well, then this project goes nowhere. If we don't have approval from the fire marshal and from the town of Smithfield, Charlie, we're out of luck. We're not allowed to proceed unless we have that. But let's be honest, this is not something new to the town. Private roads exist. These modified cul-de-sacs exist. Roadways that are thinner than 20 feet exists. It's part of your rural nature of your community, the way you fight fires.
I was just trying to help him with his concern.
And I'm just trying to help you answer that. If we don't have DOT approval on drainage, DEM approval on drainage, town approval on drainage, if we don't have fire department approval, we're going nowhere. Any approval that you give would always be contingent upon those. My 30 years of professional experience, I think they're all easily attainable.
Any other questions of the board members? Go ahead, Joe.
Joe, question. As far as a buffer in the back of this property. Yeah. Is there any thought or any idea to put some type of a sound repelling fence, posts, whatever, to alleviate an issue that a couple of the residents have brought up, that once you defoliate this, it's going to get louder and louder.
Yeah, so we just did it was last night, as a matter of fact, in Seekonk, we put sound attenuation boards along a residential property line. We're designing the new Department of Public Works for the town. They're only 14, 15 feet high. The drop in grade from the southernmost part of this property to the northernmost property is 75, 80 feet. So I don't think anything in terms of sound attenuation is going to remedy this now or in the future. Is there going to be a substantial change because 3 new single-family homes are built? You know, that's the, if we were to do a sound study, you've all seen the ones we've done from Bryant University. What you're going to find is the ambient noise is so loud from the highway. How is there going to be an increase in ambient noise? And they're going to come to you just like they did with Bryant to do those sound studies. And a lot of it is going to have to do with the existing foliage, the topography, and the distance away. But the ambient noise that they hear now is probably way above what all of us are you know, accustomed to because of its proximity to 295.
You could probably put Scotch pine trees in there.
Excuse me?
Probably put Scotch pine trees. They fall a little something like that.
So you're right. I mean, and we're open to that. We heard talk tonight about maybe increasing the backyards. And so there's a balance between the defoliage and the large backyards, even though the people have rights, as everyone else does, to build their homes. But yeah, if there's a way right now, we're not proposing retaining walls. We're cutting a 2-to-1 slope as far back as we can. If that slope needs to be planted, then I'm sure the applicant's open to that. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank
you. There was mentioned by more than one board member of thinking about having a view. Do we have a motion for that?
I would like to.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. All not in favor? 1. All right. Catherine?
Here, I'm not in favor.
All right, 2.
It's 3.
Not in favor. The ayes will have it. So shall we continue this?
Yeah, we should, we don't want to lose notice, so we would want to have a date certain on the site walk.
When we think, when will this be continued to the next?
The next planning board, no, September 19th. The next planning board meeting.
Okay.
The meeting weekend.
How about September 7th?
I'm unavailable.
Okay.
I know the area though, and like enough, so if I would like to see it, but I've seen the area many times, so it's not. We don't have to worry about my schedule in particular.
Would you prefer August 31st, Labor Day weekend?
So I'm
What
on
is-
vacation from that Saturday to that Sunday, that's why.
Okay. Well,
But no big deal, because like I said, I know the area.
what's the general census of the board, the 31st or the 7th? 7th? Okay, how about 9 a.m.? Is that okay with you, Mr.
Yes, it
Gonzalez?
is. So we are September 7 at 9 a.m. for the site walk and September 19 at 6 p.m. for the next planning hearing.
Correct.
Is that a public meeting, the site walk?
Yes.
That was your question, Mr.
Yes, if you're going to have a quorum, yeah, we need it to be. No, but if there is, we,
You don't, you need the forum, well, first you're not gonna discuss it, but a forum would be if you want to discuss it, but it's still a public meeting that takes place with the public in the tech also. That's right.
Do we need a quorum for the walk?
No,
Yeah, right. Okay,
all right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
the final matter. Yes. I'm not sure. Mr. Asil, do we need notice to the public for,
it's gonna be posted.
okay,
It won't be a letter based.
so does all the abutters who appeared today, they're aware of that? You're not going to get a separate mailing?
They won't get a separate mailing for the September meeting also. That'll just be, it'll just be in the agenda in the paper. So this is also then the next planning board meeting regarding this will be on Thursday, September 19th.
And did everyone in attendance that has an interest in this plan hear that? Yes, okay. Moving to the final matter, 0 Old County Road, ID 2406, comprehensive permit. Thank you.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. All not in favor? The ayes have it.
Just want to break it.
She's not needed for this.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. Oh, you're right. It's just a pre-app.
Am I correct that for this matter, we don't need the court reporter? That's. Thank you very much, Madam Reporter. It's the public hearings. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Casale.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Again, just for the record, my name is Joe Casale. I'm a registered professional engineer. Office is at 300 Post Road in Warwick. We're here tonight. This is a pre-application meeting. This is conceptual only, unlike our last application. These parcels, as we say in Rhode Island, are side by each. They're right next to each other. They're abutting parcels. This is a pre-app. It's a comp permit. It's a dense project. We are here solely to solicit comments, positive and or negative. So again, where we are in terms of the community, right next to the existing parcel, Old County Road. And this is the subject piece. This is a plat 43, lot 76. Also in the R medium, a little bit larger than the last piece. It's just less than 9 acres. Again, abutting 295, wooded. Notice all of the wetlands and the buffers. While the wetlands are not on the property, they're south of the property. Jurisdictional buffers and wetland buffers do exist on them. Sycamore Road, that's a public, unimproved or paper right of way. We would need to improve that to get primary access. So the first step under the new regulations today for a comp permit is a yield plan. So conventionally, this lot would yield about 7 lots in the 40,000 square foot in the R medium zone. That's a 30-foot wide paved road, public road, cul-de-sac, 60-foot radius. In terms of the yield, again, approximately 7 lots for a conventional subdivision. In terms of a comprehensive permit now, on top of the 7 lots that would yield, there is a density bonus based on acreage. And so if we were to do 25% affordable housing, that density bonus would be respectfully about 5 lots per acre. So this is going to show you a concept of a private roadway about 1,800 feet. And you can see the density that's allowed by the new state law. There could be potential for 12 triplexes, duplexes, and further duplexes. In essence, the yield, the bonus is 44 units or 51 total units on the parcel. 25% of those affordable, we're gonna put it at roughly, 13 LMI units. What you see before you is 46 units, not the 51. We would have waivers. Again, this is pre-app anticipation of the, the roadway design as well as a conservation requirement. Conservation is required under this, application. Again, in terms of drainage, everything moves easterly. Same scenario, stormwater management on the easternmost fronts. Brand new Providence water main, in the road for domestic and fire protection, sewer line in the road to handle each and every one of the units. Again, tonight, pre-application, long way to go, wetlands, DOT, same as the last project, sewer, water, fire, soil erosion. In front of this board for preliminary and then, final plan review. So I'm sure if you like the last one, you're gonna love this one.
So
That's allowed by right.
Should have started with this one, maybe.
Well, maybe that waiver is not so detrimental now, right, for the lot areas, because this is the new law.
So did I understand your presentation correctly that you had two different options?
No, this was the only option, Mr. Chairman. We did the yield plan just to show you what the underlying zone would yield.
Oh, I thought that you were looking for something less potentially.
No, it can yield 51. We're looking, that just shows you the magnitude of 46. So you're gonna see a lot of these.
So which one you're looking to?
That shows 46 lots.
Is that what you're looking to do here?
That's before you for discussion for a pre-application. Yes, Mr. Chairman.
You obviously, you were a party to the comments for the last, matter, which we're not going to get into the merits of it, but I would suspect
drainage, sound,
noise.
It's a monstrosity.
So,
It's not his fault, it's the law. It is what it is.
Yes.
You don't do massive.
No. We need to come back for preliminary, but because it's a comprehensive permit, those state permits, we don't need that for a waiver. They're automatically allowed to be at final. And that's the danger. We have to now come back with 100% engineering the next time we see you for 46 units without any master plan, which is very dangerous. I don't like it either.
Extremely
You used to be able to come to that plan, the applicant could get a good sense of what was going on, so before they spend all their time.
but did I see the presentation correctly that it included potential single lots of roughly 40 to 50,000 square feet? You were showing that for what purpose?
So those single lots, we now, to define the yield of a property, we have to tell you how many lots it would yield conventionally. So
Gotcha.
if that was commercial, it would be zero
Right.
because they're not allowed.
If the owner so chose, he or she could go that route.
It's correct.
I understand.
If they,
And it would have potentially much less impact on the issues that we may be concerned with.
and then the state overlaid the metrics of the density bonus based on sewer, water, acreage, and percent affordable. So let's say in this application, sewer, yes, water, yes, minimum 25% affordable, it's 5 per acre. So you get another 45 units or 44 units as a bonus on top of the 7. So theoretically, empirically, per the state law, this could yield 51 units.
Oh, you did your homework on this one, but I'll give you one question we can ask before it goes. So, has anybody done a traffic study on this? Are we entitled to do one? Because with this amount, there's going to be like another, 80 to 100 cars on that road?
So normally the threshold for a traffic study is in the peak hour, that 6 to 8 in the morning, that 3 to 6 at night. If you have 100 trips in that peak hour or more, DOT would require you to do a traffic study. So here, 46 units, you got to assume there's two, at least from the manual on uniform traffic control, 92. My guess is yes, you would certainly get a traffic study mandated by DOT, but you can always mandate it on anything you want. That's right. And that is going to be the whole key to it. We can't do counts in the summer. The school is going to drive that traffic study, especially because their peak hours are different than, as you know, Catherine, the other peak hours.
I assume there's going to be need for variances and waivers?
Yeah, we're going to need, now this is a comprehensive permit, so you're just listing them. But yeah, there would be a need if this is a private roadway. You know, right now we're showing 22 feet wide. And so there would be some variances. We haven't designed it all out, also waivers, I should say. Yeah,
Plus
they
the
would.
issue with the increased density in terms of the willingness to grant waivers because of safety concerns, et cetera, is much greater.
That's
with
correct.
the development of this size.
That's correct. And that's the back and forth, where you make your decision, your findings, and we have to decide, can we live with this? Is it reasonable? And that's how the sausage is made, right? Right here in front of us, between these two bodies.
Last question.
Of course.
Can you put up the plot that shows the development we just talked about previously? And this one, they abut, right?
They do. I don't have them on one PowerPoint, Catherine. This is the lot we just talked about. There's De Niro Drive.
So it's just the swamp that's separating these two
That's
lots.
correct.
So in essence, the entire area from Vol County all the way down to almost the post office, except for the last house, is going to be affected and back. He's shaking his head, yeah.
Affected in terms of,
Development, all those houses that line Oak County are going to have this in their backyards.
oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. This is a legal lot of record. Those houses have to assume someday someone has a right to build something. It's for sale. It's been for sale forever. No one's ever purchased it. But it is a legal lot of record and someone is going to purchase it and eventually put what the town is asking for, which is housing on it.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, kind of going off of his questions, you've heard the board's concern and the neighbor's concern about the drainage and things like that. Is the applicant open to doing something like that initial overlay that you presented, or was that strictly just for the application?
You know, this is just pre-application. That's why we're here. I think it's tied into the other project too. You know, he owns them both. And
Oh, it's the
so
same, okay.
if you know, that too can be subject to waivers granted.
Okay. So, yeah, with all the concerns, with all that stuff, I would ask if the applicant would be open to that. Maybe you guys, that's a discussion that you guys could have to see if that's something he would consider.
I definitely think that that might be the wiser way to go, given all of the issues involved. But the applicant is the applicant and can make his or her own educated choice.
Right. But I think we vetted this one out pretty well from the former one. I don't know that there's any differences, or unless if I'm missing. Yes, sir. Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman. Go ahead. We also got some more questions. Beginning, let's.
Even with the previous design, you heard that, and we understand, you cannot increase the capacity that's already there. You have to maintain what's on site. But given the fact that there is so much water coming off, would your client entertain increasing to help mitigate what is actually happening now to a certain percentage? I'm not going to throw that percentage out there, but is there a way to create some swales on your site to basically try to maintain some of the water that is naturally coming off? We know that you don't have the right you have the right not to do this, but you know, given the amount of water that is coming across there, if you can help mitigate that through this project, that may be amenable or palatable towards the approval.
Richard, it's a fair ask. We deal with it in all communities. Would we do a little bit more in terms of drainage? You know, maybe in consideration for a waiver? Absolutely. That's a working relationship. That this is, I guarantee one thing, what I showed is not the final plan. It'll never be built that way. There's not much that we initially show that ever works out that way. And that's what today was, to establish that fundamental partnership.
Mr. Chair?
The person owns both pieces of property and they connect to one another, you're saying?
They do, but they're bifurcated by wetlands, so they can't. The only way to access the first piece was it was deeded that sliver of land. So you know somebody intended on building in the back. And this second piece, even though it's contiguous, you'll never be able to cross it with the wetlands. So the only way in is we found a paper portion of Sycamore Road that we could improve and access.
Because I was just wondering why he just didn't put more condos where those houses are.
Well, you know, there's, you know, those houses may be a first phase, and that's a nice cash infusion into the project, so you can walk yourself through the second phase. He's a local builder, and that, you know, that's the way I think he'd like to proceed. But you're right. Can he flip-flop this and put affordables on the bottom and 7 on the top? Yeah, of course. But, and that's what we're here tonight to understand how you feel about it.
So he could make it actually worse if he wanted legally.
He could, but I you know, this isn't acrimonious. We're here asking for things, but respectfully, he has rights too.
Also, I'm saying he has the right to make it bigger.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, Joe, with this particular lot, am I right to point out that on the left-hand side, that clear area is 295?
Yes, right there. And that's the state right of way, or excuse me, that's the federal highway line. That's not a state highway line that encompasses 295. Yes.
So this lot is going to be basically open to 295 more than the other lot that we were talking about earlier today.
It will. And these buildings, the sound analysis may confirm that the buildings will be a reduction in noise compared to the trees. But these will be visible from 295 without question.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Any further presentation for this evening?
That's enough for one night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That appears to have concluded today's business. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
No, I thought the,
The amendments,
Oh.
we should make it for the record that we've had a request from council to continue the matter on the
we need to
on
vote
the
on
zoning
that?
ordinance. No, we'll just put it back on another future agenda when appropriate.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Motion
To
to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All not in favor? The ayes have it.